So the question was, how do I know if my intuition is correct, is accurate, or if it's just my imagination, or it's what I want to happen? It's a really good question. There is no short answer, but I can give you some hints. Primarily when you know something, you feel it inside, and you check with yourself, and you know that this feels right. This is the preliminary one. The first step is it feels right. The second of all is you can divorce yourself from the emotion of the moment. You have to make a decision, you've got to have something in your mind. This is difficult. So you try to take a deep breath, step back, enter into a light state of meditation, and ask again. Now, one of the things that I like to do is to trick the rational mind. The rational mind makes up your logic, your intellect, your reasoning, and your personality. And to get past that controlling mind, the rational intellectual mind, and get into the intuition, we have to trick it a little bit. We have to give it something to do. And so I like to use this check, which is what I have done for years and years. We use a simple combination of symbols. Symbols we see every day. So when you're in an uptight situation, you have to make a decision, and you're trying to get outside of the emotion, because the emotion is the veil that can adulterate your intuition. You want to get past it. So you give your rational mind something to do. And that something is you look for a color. You look for a symbol. And I like to use a traffic symbol. Red on the top, green on the bottom. Red means no or stop. Green means yes or go. So when I ask myself a question, should I buy a stock? And the broker's on the line saying, don't buy it, it's no good. Or the reverse, he's saying sell, it's going to go to the bottom. In the heat of the emotion, it's a very difficult thing to come up with a passive, intuitive insight. And so I take a breath, step back, and then I look up in my mind and I see a color. If I see a bright green color, I know the answer is yes, affirmative, or go for it. If I see a red color, I know it means stop, halt, don't do it, or no. If it's not quite clear, then I think maybe this is my willpower or my emotion interfering. So I stop and I take a step back, and then a few moments later I try it again. Now, we have a feeling sensation, we have a visualized sensation. And the most important thing to understand when you ask yourself a question, you're having that little debate going on in your mind about something or someone. When the words come up that you don't use normally, there will be something said outside of what you're thinking. That's the truth. So you hear something in your mind, you see something as far as a symbol or a color, and you have a sensation or a feeling, a calmness. Those are the three basic steps to starting to understand your intuition. Of course, if you practice it all the time, you can tell when it's your willpower, when you want something to happen. That's the worst time to ask, by the way. And you always hear people say, I can read for anybody else, but I can't read for myself. It's because the person hasn't yet gone by that ability to set aside the emotion. The emotion is the enemy. The intellect is the enemy. The intuition is subtle. And it doesn't say, look out. It says, watch out. You'll get a feeling, for instance. We always have that I knew I should have listened to myself feeling. Paying attention to that educates you and gives you the practice that sooner or later when you get those feelings, you obey them. You listen to them, you say, oh, something's coming to my mind, and you obey it, or at least you become cautious. When you hear that, look out, or you hear that, or something doesn't quite seem right when you're dealing with somebody, or when they're saying something to you, don't dismiss it. Pay attention. So paying attention is the fourth element to finding out your intuition is working and if it's a truth. Remember, if you get to that point where you go, doesn't quite seem right or feel right, it's probably not. Now, you can convince yourself logically that you should do something or you shouldn't do something because it's logical. But your intuition doesn't work logically. It gives you the answer and it doesn't give you the why or how come or the explanation. Getting past that is the fifth element in how to get to trust your intuition. Don't worry about how the calculation was. Pay attention to the answer. And the intuition always comes subtly, easily, feeling, a thought, an impression, or an overall combination of those three. Practice makes perfect. If you listen to yourself, you might make a few mistakes in the beginning, but it's like riding a bicycle. The more you try to ride that bicycle, the easier it gets, and ultimately you're able to get on that bicycle and ride down the street without even thinking. And that's the key. Don't think. When I ask people to give me their impression, I don't want to know what they're thinking. I want to know what they're seeing or what they're feeling, because that's their intuition. Those are the basic steps in learning how to develop clairvoyance. They lead you to remote viewing, mind projection, clairsentience, premonition, precognition, and all the other psychic gifts and abilities, because you're listening to your heart.